Down out. What's up, everybody? You are tuned into the best of the Elks Call Season 2. I'm your host, Scout, aka the rep from Section X, and we can't thank you enough for tuning into our show. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and favorite buttons. Your support means everything to us here at the Elks Herd and Shotgun Sports Network. All right, today we're going to be giving you the best of YEG community. Good old Edmonton. This best of episode is brought to you by Royal Retros. Save 10% off on CFLPA merchandise, CFL throwback jerseys, and more. Now use code Shotgun Sports, all caps, no spaces, and you're going to save 10% off. Once again, that's royalretros.com. Code Shotgun Sports. They're the throwback kings. Go give them some love. All right, so we know Edmonton is a fantastic city. It's one giant community, and within this big community, we have many more little communities, and football is one of those. So from fundraisers to IFAF, we got to participate in a couple of the events that our community hosted. Now, in this episode, we're going to have Jace, Darryl, and Ryan start off the show. We ended up talking to them about their annual football flag-a-thon in support of the Stollery Childrens Hospital. So it's a great event for all. It was great to be there. Also great to talk about it and promote it a bit. And we already can't wait for the third edition. After that conversation, we have local businessman and CEO of Sport Edmonton, Reed Clarke, joining us there on the show, or at least our recorded interview. We ended up talking about fresh nets, and, he gave his insight in on the double E, a little bit of throwback convo as well, because he does have a business in throwback merchandise as well. And then we finally had Tim Enger on the show to cap it off here. Tim Enger is from Football Alberta. He was also on the committee for the 2024 IFAF Football World Juniors. So that was lots of fun. We ended up doing some media for that, but you get to see that interview before that event even happened. So it's good. It was really exciting. Should have been there. Obviously, Edmonton's football team not doing the greatest at the time probably didn't help, but yeah, I mean, no matter what, it was some of the best football I've ever seen. So if you weren't there, you did miss out. But without further ado, here are the best conversations of the year from the Elks Call. Today, we are joined by Darryl Henderson and Ryan Nervous of the Fort Saskatchewan Football Flag-A-Thon in support of the Stollery Children's Hospital. 24-hour Flag-A-Thon. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Every time.
It's going to be one of those. It never fails.
It feels like football weather out there. Darryl, you just got off the turf yourself.
Yep, just got wrapped up week 1 of spring training. It was a little windy out there today.
Yeah,
It was. The boys were at soccer today, and I was sheltering underneath a tree. But,
in a chair.
In a chair, of course.
Like many other soccer parents out there, and football parents, and baseball parents. Before we dig into this show, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching on our YouTube, which is Shotgun Sports Network, or on Facebook or X at the Elks Herd, or if you're listening on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Edmonton Sports Talk, or wherever you get your podcasts. While we're here, if you could please hit the like and subscribe or favorite button, we would greatly appreciate it. For today's lineup, it's another stack show. As always, we're going to open up with the More You Didn't Know with Darryl and Ryan, where we have a discussion about this flag-a-thon. And we also have a special interview with Jace as well, and the Little Herd. And then we're going to dig into Kathy's Herd Report, talking about the latest Edmonton Elks transactions and news. Following that, we'll give you an Edmonton sports update, and then we'll cap the show with the fan forum, where we discuss hot topics surrounding the Elks, the CFL, and the sports world as a whole. Be sure to blow up the Herd chat so you can get your comments and questions onto the show. Let's kick it off with the More You Didn't Know, brought to you by the Winnipeg Terminal. Catch the Flight with Mike and Joe every week, talking all things Jets and Bombers on Shotgun Sports Network. Wheels up. So today we're talking with Darryl and Ryan about the football flag-a-thon. And then we have a fun interview with Jace to show everyone. So once again, everybody, if you have any questions or comments, throw them into the herd chat, and we will do our best to get them on here. Darryl, you've been on the show before as an Elks fan. Ryan, you're here for your first time, so we welcome you both. You guys are here today talking about a different kind of football event from what we normally talk about. What is this flag-a-thon? I guess we'll start with Darryl.
Well, actually, you know what? If you don't mind, I'm going to throw it to Ryan because he kind of has been heading up the organizing for the last 2 years. So go ahead, Ryan.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's our second annual, like you said. So we started last year. We always try and do something to be able to give back to the community, to show these kids what that's about, right? To be able to be the next members of our society and give back to the community they live in. So we decided to do a 24-hour flag football game to raise money for the Stollery. So it was an absolute blast last year. Playing games at 2 a.m. under the lights is a totally different beast. It's pretty cool, but it's 5-a-side. So we follow the CDMFA rules for that. So it's a quarter field. So we can technically have 4 games going at once. So we can accept a lot of teams for this and have a lot of games going on. The game slots are an hour long. So you're not playing too long. And if you want to play multiple games, we had some teams play 7, 8, 10 games last year. So they were a little sore, but like we said, it's absolutely nothing compared to what these kids go through every day of their life that are suffering, right? And the Stollery is there to help them out. So anything we can do to be able to give back to these kids and support that cause is worth it.
No, that's incredible, and definitely thanks a lot, Darryl, for steering the ship on that one. I had a show order there, so really greatly appreciate that. But speaking on that in the Stollery, that's where Darryl more so has a little bit more of a story there, right?
Yeah, I have some experience with at the University of Alberta Hospital, the Stollery. My experience just barely. Actually, it predates the Stollery coming to Edmonton as a organization. So I used the Stollery. I used the university. I was born with a hole in my heart, and there was some, even back then without the Stollery, there were some very, very good doctors. The hospital was top notch even then. They managed to deal with my condition. I had open heart surgery when I was 4.5 years old, and from there, I couldn't tell you exactly when the Stollery opened, but it was shortly after that point. I would go to the Stollery on an annual basis to do my annual checkups. And as I got passed from one doctor to another, the last doctor that took me probably started me up when I was still what you would say a minor. And then he continued on with my file well into my 30s, and I was still going to the Stollery, actually. So I've only just graduated to the Mazankowski not many years ago. So I'm very familiar with the Stollery. I'm very familiar with the staff there, the doctors, the surgeons, and it's a big part of my life, definitely. It's a welcome thing for myself to help out and give back to the Stollery because it gave so much to me, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that so that there's other people, kind of like Ryan's family, have both used the Stollery. I think a lot of people have, and it's just very well needed, and it's an amazing amenity necessity in Edmonton. It's a blessing that we have it.
Definitely. I 100% agree. The Stollery has amazing staff. It's an amazing organization. And even for little things such as 2-hour nosebleed, which is what my son had, and it just wouldn't stop. They just were absolutely amazing. And I couldn't be more thankful because, as mothers, fathers, even siblings, as anybody that is around any children, we all know that if they're little angels, right? That if they can take care of these kids and provide a very a safe. There you go. That's the word that I want to go for. If they can provide a safe environment for a kid to be in, sometimes months, years at a time, then why not support them as best as we can? So, Ryan, your son Jace is a very important piece to what you're doing here, of course. Was his what was his impact on this flag-a-thon, and how special is it to build an event with your son?
Yeah, it's with him we've spent a lot of time there. He's had surgery and some other procedures there, so it definitely means a lot to us. And actually, our daughter just finished a surgery there last week, and they take amazing care of you. So to be able to do something with him, to show him the importance of giving back, and to be able to show what the Stollery did for him to be able to play football. And he's playing tackle football even. Last year he started that, so to be able to do that has been an amazing feat. And yeah, to be able to work with him, to give back, and to put on this event has been a lot of fun. We had a goal of raising $20,000 last year, and we came awfully close. We raised just over 18,000 in total. So this year we're hoping, we're pushing to break through that, and beat that $20,000 mark. So to show them, what a few people and a community can do to put on this event and raise this kind of money is pretty awesome, pretty special.
Oh, it is extremely special, right? You don't see these kind of events happen very often, especially for football, right?
Yeah.
You guys have definitely hit a good spot. I mean, Port Saskatchewan as well, great location for it. And like you said, you guys can have 4 games going on at once. That just allows you to pack it in. So
That sounds so fun.
oh yeah,
You know what? And I knew this was a 24-hour thing, and it didn't really click in until you said 2 a.m.
I'll tell you, those lights do affect you. Trying to catch a ball at 2 a.m. looking into those lights, that's not easy. These professionals make it look pretty darn easy. Even these kids, some of these kids, the way they can catch a ball running down the field, I can't.
So what would you guys say were some of the highlights of last year's Flag-A-Thon?
I think just the people coming together. We actually, it was about 11:30 at night. We were playing a game, and all of a sudden, these two, they were teenager, young adults, walked in. They seen the lights on. They said, what's going on here? We kind of told them about it, and they said, hey, how do we play? So they signed the waivers. They jumped in. They played for, I think it was an hour or 2 hours straight, and they had an absolute blast. So just seeing people walk off the street and want to come play, and just all the teams, we had teams from a few different organizations within our league come out and just having a blast together, right? There's no competition. You're just having fun.
Yeah. There would also be another highlight that we like to talk about and promote is it's an open, it's an open registration, just so everybody knows. And I'm sure we'll get to it, but I'll say it right quick. We still have time for teams to register until June 7th. We're looking for teams from anywhere from 5 to 10 players, and it could be any age groups. You could be from the Edmonton Flag Association. You could be within the Capital District Minor Football Association. You could be not associated with anybody. And to that point, we actually had a couple of the mothers from the Falcons family put in 2 separate teams. And it just so happened that the schedule maker ended up pitting them against their kids. And those were some of the more fun and intense games, for sure.
I love it.
No mercy from those moms and those parents.
Not at all. We usually go out on the weekends to just throw the ball around, and that's my motto. Yeah. No mercy. If you want to get around me, you get around me. It has happened. Yeah. I have been tackled by my 6-year-old.
But even to that, like, we had a team from actually one of the Home Depots around our community. They reached out and put a team in too, right? So like literally no affiliation with football at all. Just come have some fun. We had as young as 4 years old and up to 65 years old playing in it last year. So there's no age limit. There's no skill level limit. There's nothing, right? Just come out and have fun. Grab 5 to 10 of your friends and get out here.
Oh, that's so cool.
I love that, because it's obviously for a really good cause. It's an amazing cause, but beyond that, this is a community event, right? Like,
Yeah.
look at that, bringing entire communities together, age groups together, different niches, different groups together just to play some football. How cool is that?
No, it's so cool.
Right? And I mean, on that cool note, we do have a pretty special little video that we filmed yesterday that we would love to show everybody here before we continue talking about this. So how about I just play it?
Give her.
Would that be good? Let's see. Just gonna go ahead and show this.
Hello, my name is Kyle. I will be your host for today.
And my name is Aiden.
Hi. This is our guest, Jace.
And how are you?
Good.
What do you love the most about football?
That you get to have lots of fun.
What team do you play for?
The Fort Falcons. Excited for the 24-hour Flag-A-Thon? Yeah. Can you tell us more about it? That you get to have lots of fun, and there's going to be a slip and slide and face painting and other games. Do you get to go in the arena? Yes.
Is Aaron Grimes your best friend?
Yes.
What do you like about him?
That he's a really nice guy, and he supports me a lot. Think the Elks will make it far this year? Yeah. How about the Oilers?
Oh.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so
Oh.
How cute is that? I mean, if that's
awesome.
people that, to come and support this Flag-A-Thon, that there's going to be slip and slides. Seriously.
Yeah, and it's more than just the games. Yeah, we got food trucks coming. We've got slip and slide, face painting, a caricature artist, and then some yard games as well set up. So you don't just got to come play your hour time slot or however many time slots you want. You come hang out and play some other games, or even if you don't want to play, just come hang out, watch some football, cheer them on, and support it in any way you can.
Yes. And I mean, seeing little boys like that,
Yeah.
so invested.
It was awesome. Yeah.
With a lot of editing, but
Just a little minor.
It was good. It was fantastic.
Yes. But so, of course, as I mentioned, this is more of a community event as well, more than just a community event, really. But what has the community support been like since your first event in both for Saskatchewan and Edmonton? Have you seen that there's an uptick in registrations? What is it trending towards?
Yeah, we're getting close to meeting this kind of the same number of registrations we had last year, but we are seeing a little bit more support from our league. We got a few more teams looking to come. I believe, was it the team from Fort Mac reached out to you today, Darryl?
I had some conversations with him, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a tight turnaround by the time we figured things out.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a drive, but even for them to even have those conversations, they're quite a ways away, but to have those conversations is great. So we're getting some good support from our league as well. They're really pushing for it. So,
well, and what's cool about this is it could become kind of like the Edson Ball tournament. If you're an Albertan who plays slow pitch, you know about the Edson Ball tournament. It hasn't been around for quite some years now, but it's one of those things where everybody from Western Canada will show up to Edson for this crazy weekend where they have all these diamonds and everything else. So, like, same deal, right? This has the potential to be one of those.
Well, and it's just
that's what we're hoping for, yeah.
Right? This is just a second year. And the whole point of this and the goal is to just grow it and grow it and grow it so that next year they will come to you. You won't even have to have these conversations. They're just going to show up. And more teams everywhere in Alberta are going to show up. So that's the hope for sure.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is to beat the record for the longest football game. So I believe do you remember, Darryl, 60 some hours, I want to say 58, 60.
I want to even say it might be north of that. It's been a while since I looked it up.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
That's the ultimate goal, is to end up trying to push it that far, right? So take it longer than 24 and keep growing it, get lots of teams, lots of games going at once, and keep pushing it longer and longer. So
no,
That'd be cool.
that's awesome. Exactly, just like the world's longest hockey game, right? You can do the same with football. So.
World's longest football game, exactly.
Well, exactly. That's what we want to see. I mean, we want to see more Canadian football events. You know, hockey has a lot of it. We already know. We moved our date tonight to Thursday because of the big hockey event here in town. So with playoffs and them making it close to the Stanley Cup, you got to watch it. I mean, even we had to watch it.
Yeah.
You guys wanted to watch it. So that's the reality, right? And football is technically, it should be our second biggest sport, Canadian football here in Canada. So, I mean, hey, nothing against lacrosse, which I believe isn't that our national?
Yep.
Sport? So,
yep, that's the national sport.
I forget all the time.
But Canadian football, it's a little bit bigger. But getting back to the Flag-A-Thon, it's weeks away. You're almost ready to host the biggest 24-hour event yet. How can people get involved, and what can folks, you guys already mentioned about obviously registration, but like what can folks like us do to help?
So yeah, if people want to go to our website, fortsaskfootball.com, there's a little tab at the top for the 24-hour Flag-A-Thon there. So from there you can register a team. You can read about our team letter and our sponsor letter if anybody wants to do any sort of sponsorship for the event. You can read Darryl and Jace's stories that we have up there, kind of why it's important. We're trying to showcase people with Stollery stories throughout these events as well. We've got a link right to the crowdfund page. We donate right to the Stollery as well through our event. And as well, we've got these shirts for sale. We're getting near the end of that. That's coming due this weekend. It closes. So if you want one of these shirts, we got a local place working with us on that. Proceeds from the shirt sales are going back to the Stollery as well. So you can rep our merchandise there and come out and do that. And then just show up to the event out at Taurus Field. We got an amazing facility out there. So it's nice to be able to showcase that through this event as well. Come cheer on the teams, and yeah, any sort of sponsorship, donations, teams, everything like that.
Nice.
Perfect. Yeah, well, we will make sure to post all of the links and all of the information for everybody that is watching or listening later, so that they can go ahead and visit those websites and click on those links to make sure that, if they wish to help, any help is appreciated. So.
Yeah, check the description. The links will be in the description
By tomorrow.
Perfect. And we do have some giveaways as well. So we've been working with the Elks. So the top individual fundraiser will get tickets to it's a home game. I can't remember the exact date. It's in August, I believe, against BC. So they're going to give tickets to the family of the top individual fundraiser. And then they've got some swag bags as well for the top team fundraiser. Each person from the team will get a bag. It's got a football and some other stuff in it. So.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. And then anybody from our league, whichever association raises the most money, our league is actually donating a pretty amazing piece of tackle equipment. It's worth around $1,000. So anybody from the league, it doesn't matter if you enter one team or 10 teams. We kind of combine all them, see who raises the most money, and they'll be awarded that from our league. So
that's fantastic.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody, just go. Donate.
Right?
We still have a whole week left to get registrations. We want more teams, more donations.
Yeah, this is the final push. Definitely thrilled you guys are here today to talk about it. Because we're going to be there probably for the second day. We're going to pop by in the morning and do some media detail too.
I don't know. Maybe we should pop up at 2 a.m.
Maybe we should pop. You know what? Right after the game,
we'll be up. Don't worry. The lights
will still be up. Yeah.
The lights will be on.
Coffee will be there and ready.
That might be the fun media work. Okay, might got me sold here.
Oh no! Well, I mean, the Elks better win, of course. But if they win,
Yeah.
and afterwards we make it over there, that's gonna be fun.
It'll be a fun time.
It's a quick Uber trip from Commonwealth. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no big deal.
Done. So something that we mention often is the grassroots movement. We've talked about it quite often here, in the Elks Call, and how sometimes it can seem a bit lacking in visibility. We know it's there, but sometimes there's not a lot of well, maybe marketing. I want to call it marketing because the information is there, but
Yep.
it's just the accessibility or how visible that information is. So, Darryl, as a coach and someone that is involved in minor football, what's your opinion on the state of football at the minor levels, and how can we increase that visibility so that other people can know exactly when these events are happening?
Well, I think like you guys have brought that up on a number of occasions, and I think there might be a small, or not small, but there's a legitimate concern. Concern's not the right word, but like definitely there's some visibility. We could definitely the minor football in Edmonton could be a little bit more visible. They could have a little bit more of a presence. Sorry, at the local games, at the Elks games. But while it might be a little bit, under the surface, the minor football in Edmonton is actually very, very, very healthy. Um, I checked in with the association here earlier today, as a matter of fact, just so that I could talk to that a little. And tackle, our 2023 tackle, we actually had 1,878 players in our tackle season, which was well over what we had the year before. And I believe our spring from 2023 was in the low 700s. And this year, our spring flag number, we had 985 flag players this spring. So, like, does the greater Edmonton, are they not aware of it? Possibly. Can CDMFA, can the club members do more to promote? Absolutely. I mean, you could say the same for the Elks. You could say the same for the CFL as a whole. We all kind of are taking a backseat to hockey, unfortunately. But with 23 associations in the CDMFA, it actually makes, if you guys didn't know this, with 23 members, club members, it actually makes the Capital District Minor Football Association the largest minor football association in Canada.
Beautiful.
That's really cool, and it's really good to see that the numbers are going up. And I do agree, the visibility is there, but maybe it's just maybe the word would be interest, and I don't want to call it like that.
Well,
but
no, the interest is there. I think,
is there.
and I'll speak up on this because the Elks did have the Minor Football Association actually at at Fan Day.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're actually getting a little bit more involved. And the reason why sometimes that's correlated is because you look at how many kids are showing up at Edmonton Elks games, because, a lot of these football families, they usually want to bring their kids to the games.
Mm-hmm.
Have the Edmonton Elks turned off their fan base that bad to the point where we're seeing a little bit less of that? Is it a grassroots movement thing? And obviously Darryl has the numbers here, so that's
Mm-hmm.
great. And I mean, we're never here to speak against it because we're going to be getting our kids into football. I think one of the coolest things this last year was the Edmonton Seahawks showing up for their bottle drive and dropping off a magnet. And that was the first time we had seen that in this neighborhood. I think they do this quite often. Unfortunately, we've never caught it, right?
Yeah.
But that was one of the biggest pieces for us.
I think it's just that is being able to catch it when you're not necessarily in certain groups.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the thing. I mean, before I was even involved with sports, Edmonton Elks, doing the Elks Herd, doing the Elks Call, I never really went out of my way to look for sporting events. Right? And if I wasn't looking for them, then I had no way of knowing what was happening. I think that's where the disconnect is. And seeing the Seahawks do that, just even walking around doing bottle drives, here's a magnet, that brought a little bit of visibility.
Yeah.
I was actually just at Boston Pizza, and they have their Become a Player for a Day event. So you enter a draw and you can become an Edmonton Seahawks player for one day if your name gets drawn, right? And I thought that was pretty cool because those are things that the team is doing to go outside of those sporting groups, that community of sports that, very, I mean, I don't want to say very few, but a select people are involved in. What about if you're not part of that, right? What if you're not part of the sports groups? What about if you don't have friends that are involved in sports? How do you know that these events are happening for your kids?
And the Edmonton Seahawks have indeed actually brought forward a solution. Like they have, I really like that. I like both of those, right? The magnet and having to be a player for a day.
So I mean, it's one of those situations that we don't talk about it negatively. We just talk about it because we just wish that there would be those kind of initiatives.
And mostly because we want more kids in football. We want to have a better, minor visibility in the football community.
I think another comment to it, there's been a lot of work. I wouldn't necessarily know who, so there would be some credit due on the CDMFA side, but I do know that with the changeover on the Elks side, there's, you guys would be very aware, there's been a couple of presidents incoming and outgoing in the last half dozen years. And so the relationship hasn't always been strong from the professional club to the, what you would call the grassroots. That it's not a feeder system, but that what it is it should be your fan base if it's not a direct feeder system, obviously. So, but in the last couple of years, going to some of the CDMFA meetings, I can speak to a couple of members of their board members. The CDMFA's board members are in constant talks now with the Elks. I would hope and predict that those lines of communication are going to remain open with this with the public ownership group that we have, and I would imagine that we're going to try to continue that. One thing that I know that we have attempted as the minor football association, like the CDMFA, is we're endeavoring where we can to move our scheduled games away from the Elks home games to allow for that fan base, that built-in automatic fan base. We shouldn't be playing games when Elks, like sometimes it's unavoidable. Our scheduler, Ryan Shula, does an amazing job. And he's said many times that there is no such thing as a perfect schedule. And so sometimes, yes, games get scheduled right up against Elks games. There's not much we can do. There's a limited amount of fields, limited amount of officials, and way more teams than you would imagine. So he does the best that he can. But we are doing what we like. It's not a blackout, but it would be like a soft blackout where we try to avoid those games. So we're trying to work more so with the club, and it's we scratch their back, they scratch ours. So the visibility is going to continue to grow, I think, as well as that relationship between the CDMFA and the Elks.
Oh, totally. You can see that, right? Like I said, Elks are already getting back in there, and it's good to see.
You know what I would love to see? That's just me personally, especially if I'm not necessarily on social media or on the websites 100%. And I always miss registration dates. I am horrible with them, especially because you have to register like 6 months in advance. And sometimes it just slips your mind. But I would love to see registration booths at the Edmonton Elks games.
Yep.
Like we have this event or this, league that is taking registrations now for flag tackle, in the fall. Register now. Kids are pumped. Kids are there. They're enjoying the football on the field, and they're like, "Hey, mom and dad, sign me up." That'd be cool.
Elks got to hire you or something. I don't know. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, like Darryl said, like we got to get the kids out to these games and get that support back, right? Like, yeah, it might not be the direct feeder system, but you get these kids loving the sport. They keep going with it through to high school, through to college. It is your feeder. So you go from your fan base to the feeder, basically. So we just got to get those relationships, I think, pushing a little more, and yeah, get more kids out to these games. So I know
Totally.
last year, I don't know if they're still doing it, but last year, weren't they doing the free tickets, I believe? So
They
I
have
don't know if they're still doing that.
one
this
game
year?
this year. One game,
Okay.
the Labor Day rematch, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
I do
yeah,
know
no,
there's not to be a plug for the Elks, but I do know, like, I bought my son his own season seat this year, and I do believe what I heard about that was you can get a season seat for a youth up to 17 years old for $75 this year, which
Yeah.
is like an
Wow.
absolute. That's $7.50
Yeah.
to get your kid under 18 into the game. Like, maybe the Stingers and the baseball team have something that economic. I'm not sure, but that's a pretty darn good deal. So.
I mean, yeah, we could just hold on to Section X 3 and 4, row 6,
Yeah,
3 and
we
4
should.
for $75 and grandfather it in every year. You know,
There you go.
we'll see. But
But yeah, you get these kids out to the games, and obviously their parents got to bring them, and they're spending money at your concessions, they're buying your merchandise. You're growing the sport and everything.
well, and I've recently maybe even a feature that may be coming up on the news, but recently talked about this, right? The other Elks missed a generation somehow, some way. That kind of there's a
At
couple.
least one.
Yeah, and I mean 2015, especially in the year where you have a Grey Cup like that, should have been super kid oriented. Those kids hooked on the Edmonton then Eskimos for
Right.
life, right? So there's so many fine opportunities in the last 10 years, 10 to 15 years, and unfortunately, it's something that we do talk about. So, and like you said, there's a relationship there with minor football as well, and then you're going back and forth with president. We've made it all the way back to Lawlisher. So it's understandable, but it's also very frustrating. Like you said, there's growth there now, and it's very cool to see the Elks getting back involved with minor football and raising that visibility a little bit more. And like you said, it's only going to benefit them. They're going to get more fans in the stands.
I should also add, just to give them a little bit of a kudos or props or to put a spotlight on that relationship, is that a couple years back when flag was just sort of taking off a little bit, we were using the NFL program, the NFL flag program.
Yep.
And we actually moved away from that starting last season. And we are now basically, flag is powered. Don't ask me how that relationship exactly works, but it is powered by the Elks to the point where the kids all wear their jerseys and their shorts have a CDMFA logo and an Elks logo right on there. So I think there's definitely some support there from the Elks with the flag. We'll see where that takes us with the tackle. But I know that the CDMFA board and the Elks are definitely working together.
Beautiful.
Oh,
No,
and I love to hear it. Everybody does too. We have David here, Ginger Argo.
Yeah, Ginger Argo in the herd chat.
Darryl and Ryan, keep up the amazing work. So, all the
Thanks,
way from
David.
Toronto. All the way from Toronto.
And
So.
Ryan Messer in the herd chat up there in response to the interview and everything you guys are doing. That's awesome. So
Nice.
What's not to like with that? It's so cute. John over here, so cute. We need more of that.
Yeah.
We definitely do. One day we'll convince the boys to do an entire episode. With their attention.
Well, that's another thing the Elks did. That's actually how Jace ended up meeting up with Aaron. The Elks partnered with that MH Care Medical, and they did the Cleats of Strength last year. So they brought an Elks player into the Stollery and had Stollery kids meet up with them, design a pair of cleats for them. Unfortunately, Aaron wasn't able to wear them last year due to injury, but you know what? They actually have become, I guarantee, lifelong friends. They still chat weekly. They're, best friends, like you said. So, they supported each other through their injuries and through their recoveries and stuff. So that was pretty special to see that. And, see these players wearing, a kid's design on their cleats. It was phenomenal.
It is pretty cool. We've had Sinjin in the podcast before, and he's awesome. And I mean, once again, the Stollery is just doing amazing work, and the Edmonton Elks are doing their part in all of that as well. So
it's beautiful, yeah.
But let's have just a quick little, let's bring it to the easy sided, part of the interview, not so heavy. Who's the better football player, Darryl or Ryan?
Oh, I don't know who the better football player is, but I know who cheers for the better team. That much.
Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so good. All right, we'll wrap it up here right away. Our last question: if people want to register a team, sponsor, donate, get involved, where can they do so? Once again, and where can we find the event details online? I know we talked about it before, but we gotta talk about it again. What is
For sure? Yeah, fortsaskfootball.com. Hit the 24-hour link, and you've got everything from the Stollery stories to the team letter, the sponsor letter, a link to donate directly to the Stollery through our crowdfund page for the event, a link to register a team, everything like that. So on those team and sponsor letters as well is an email. Darryl, myself, and our other co-organizer, Melanie, it goes directly to all three of us, and we'll get back to you right away. So anything, hit us up and let us know what you need and what you want, and we'll get you hooked up with the event.
awesome. No, and well, like we said, we're going to be there. Hopefully get some more folks down there. Media folks, definitely get on down there for covering this, because it's going to be big. It's going to be 24 hours plus big. So
Yeah.
that's all the time.
I know we got some challenges out there too, because I know our local fire department, they came and joined in last year. They actually stopped by after a call. They were on a call. They stopped by. They're still in some of their gear trying to play with the kids. They're coming back out this year. So any other fire department, medical service, police,
RC,
fire police, man, that's a heck of a game. They want it. So
listen,
let's get it happening.
We're going to be there.
yeah, the bombs. Oh no, and that's it. Like, there's so many storylines out of there. Like you said, right? Fire versus police.
That's cool. That'll be fun.
I think people would show up just to watch that alone, right?
Right.
So fantastic. Yeah, guys, that's all the time we have for this segment. For the more you didn't know, Darryl, Ryan, we can't thank you so much, and Jace. Can't thank Jace enough either for being on the show today. We'll be seeing you at the Flag-A-Thon in a couple weeks, so we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Cheers, guys.
Of course. Oh, just give me 1 second. I'll kick you up.
One at a time. All right. So that was Darryl Henderson and Ryan Nerbus of the Fort Saskatchewan Minor Football Flag-A-Thon. And today we are joined by the founder of Ross Flats Vintage Apparel, former president and CEO of the Edmonton Stingers, and current CEO of Sport Edmonton. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Reed Clarke. Thanks for joining us today, Reed.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Super stoked that you're here. We were also really excited for some Canadian football and some Canadian basketball, and then that snow came back. So yeah, a little.
It's always what are we? Our fourth winter at this point?
Yeah,
fourth. I don't know. It just, you think you're out, and then it just comes back in.
You know what's sad? That is, I was supposed to play golf today at Victoria because it was opening day, and I always play at Vic, like the Muni downtown. And so I was kind of done work. It's like 5 o'clock. I'm like, I'm just gonna roll by there and see what's going on, because the snow sort of melted, right? Yeah. And it's dead. Like, there's nobody there. It's all closed. I walked up by the clubhouse, took a couple pictures. I thought about it. I'm like, maybe I should just play the first hole, just to make myself feel good. But anyways, I had to run. But it was sad. So maybe tomorrow.
Hey,
yeah.
We're gonna hit the double digits again here within a day or two. So
of course. And very, Edmonton weather.
Yes, and you're probably gonna have winter in the morning. So we're gonna dig into this show in a moment, but first, we would like to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching on our YouTube Shotgun Sports Network, or on Facebook, or on X, or if you're listening on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Edmonton Sports Talk, or wherever you get your podcasts. While we're here, if you could hit the like and subscribe or favorite button, we would greatly appreciate it. For today's lineup, it's another stack show. We're going to open up with the More You Didn't Know with Reed Clarke, where we have a discussion and talk about various topics and dig into Reed's life as well. Then we're going to dig into the Kathy's Herd Report, talking about the latest Edmonton Elks transactions and news. And You got a little bit today.
Yeah.
You got some transactions.
More than a couple of weeks ago, for sure.
So following that, we're going to give you the Edmonton sports update, and then we'll cap the show with the fan forum where we discuss the hot topics surrounding the Elks, CFL, and sports world as a whole. Guys, be sure to blow up the herd chat with any questions or comments, and we'll do our best to get them onto the show. Join the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's kick it off. It's the more you didn't know. This segment is brought to you by the Winnipeg Terminal. Catch the flight with Joe and Mike every Wednesday and talk all things Jets and Bombers on Shotgun Sports Network. Wheels up. All right, so today we're going to talk with Reed Clarke about a number of things, including his roots in Edmonton sports scene, the rise of Canadian basketball, his current and future ventures, and maybe a little bit about Elks ownership. We'd love to get some insights. So once again, guys, if you have any questions, get them into the herd chat, and we will do our best to get them in here. Reed, you're a successful sports businessman here in the city of Edmonton. Give us a little bit more about your background and your history in the city. Like, how did you get to this point?
Yeah, I don't know about successful, but I'll take something about in sports. Yeah, you know what? I don't really have a conventional route that I got into sports occupations or the industry. I'm born and raised in Edmonton, grew up here, played basketball kind of my whole life from community league to high school, a little bit of men's league. Coach my kids now in community league ball. So that's always been, basketball's kind of always been my passion. But I love football. I've always been an Elks season seat holder. I love baseball. I love the history of sports in Edmonton in general. But after I went to school, I worked for Molson for 12 years, when the brewery was here and they had the fort, all that kind of cool stuff. So I was all in the sales capacity, went to Sleeman sales, and then kind of did some marketing at a company called Auto Canada, which owns a whole bunch of car dealerships. And from there, I was a sponsor, courtside season ticket holder for the Stingers. And then when there was kind of an opening for their president role, they posted it on, I think it was on Instagram, and I saw it. I remember taking a screenshot, and I sent it to a buddy of mine who was consulting with the team. I just said, hey, I might be looking for a change. I don't know. I've done sales and marketing. That's kind of my whole background for a number of years. Is this something I could try? I don't know. To me, I feel like that's what they need more than anything else. They were just coming off back-to-back championships. So the basketball ops, the sports ops seemed good, but nobody knew about the team, right? It still wasn't doing well in terms of attendance, exposure, all that. So he's like, hey, well, I'll get you hooked up with Mike Moriali, who is the commissioner of the CBL and obviously former CFL great, and said, let's see if we could get an interview with him. And I did. And that went over pretty well. And a couple more calls later, they're like, hey, well, let's take a chance on this guy who has a little bit of a different background, because I think it's what we need, and give him the role as president. So, yeah, man, I kind of started on that end, ran the Stingers for a couple years, got into the ownership group, and then kind of made a call, this fall, said, hey, I really love where the community side and sports kind of intersect. This opportunity came up to kind of take the Edmonton Sport Council, now rebranded Sport Edmonton, and kind of blow that up and make that into something that I think is really needed in the city, and just kind of embracing sports in the community together. So that's kind of my route. I was explaining to some kids at a university talk a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, so you saw an Instagram post and that's how it worked out? I'm like, yeah, kind of. I don't, that's my advice. I mean, get into something and maybe it works out. But I mean, traditionally is more you start off as an intern, get a sales job, whatever you're doing, you're washing towels, kind of work your way up there. But yeah, I kind of fell in a spot where, sports team really needed, I think, some sales and marketing help. And I was able to provide that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, totally. There's something to say about unconventional methods of, getting a job.
Yeah.
Nowadays you get all of these, postings that you see, you need 2 to 3 years of professional experience, even though you just graduated, a year ago. So if I mean, talking to young kids that are in university and looking for advice and just pretty much telling them to go for it, from an Instagram post, and you never know what may happen. That's absolutely amazing. So that's a cool story. But let's talk a little bit more about the time that you spent as a president and CEO of the Edmonton Stingers, our local CBL team. From that role, you were able to continue a program called the Fresh Nets. What can you tell us about your experience with the Stingers and what exactly Fresh Nets is?
Yeah, when I first took the job with the Stingers, coming from the league, and it was a league-owned team at the time, they're really focused on like Reed gets the sponsorship dollars, Reed gets season tickets. Like we need to make this actually like financially viable, right? So that was a big focus for me when I really got in there. I was like, okay, let's get sponsorship, let's get season tickets. And we had a pretty like low basic. I think we had like $0, a couple hundred season ticket holders, and was able to build that up to a pretty significant number. It was over like 1,000 season ticket holders and a few 100,000 on the sponsorship and then some. But that was a focus, and that did that the first season. We did that. We got some good wins. We were up like 40-some% in attendance. Sponsorship was double, and that was great. But when I going into the second season, we started doing a lot more kind of community focused programming, and really just getting out there into like junior highs, high schools, working with like local charities. And then we started this program called Fresh Nets. And actually, I was doing that back in the day. Like I had a ladder and nets in my car. And on my lunch break when I was working at Canada, I would go fix up nets if I saw a court out there that didn't have a net. Because like as somebody grew up playing basketball outside, 3-on-3 style, like I used to bike to like Oliver and Westmount every night to go play hoops with guys. And if you don't have a net, like it sucks. You're not even it's just brutal. And it's such an easy fix. It's like a few bucks to get a net, to get a ladder. It takes you 5 minutes to do it, and it's never done. It's always looked after, so it drive me crazy. So I started doing it, and then when I came around Stingers, we didn't run out right away. And then kind of this summer, almost after the season, I'm like, let's actually bring this back and order some of our own custom nets and just start doing this and see what the response is. And the response, like within like a couple of weeks, man, it was crazy. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everyone had like a story, like, hey, can I go back to my old neighborhood and put up a net here? They've never had one. And we started getting like, man, it was like celebrity, like local Edmonton celebrities. The mayor did one. We got all these other athletes wanted to do it. Companies were sending out their employees for this, and it kind of just built a life of its own. And then we just kind of kept going from there and turned that into the fall. And then we're doing it in the winter. It was like -30. We'd be putting up nets once in a while. So that Fresh Nets program was really sort of kind of took a life of its own. And even when I left the Stingers in the fall, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be something that was going to be like, to be honest, like the top priority for them, or if they want to continue or not. It just wasn't clear at the time. I was like, I can't let this thing go. Like I got to keep this rolling, right? Because it's the kind of thing, like I bring a net and a sticker, like when I go on vacation with the wife and the kids, and we'll put them up. Like we're in Disneyland, we're putting up stickers and nets. Like wherever we go, we're doing it. So it's really something that it's close to my heart. So I've kept that going. It's now officially a foundation, and we got some sponsors on board to kind of help us out. We did a Fresh Nets Day last week where I'm still getting like Aaron Grimes helped out. We had some Stingers helping out. We had some other kind of local business guys helping out. So it's something I think can just kind of keep building and could probably go way beyond Edmonton, right? Like I think it can go across the country beyond that. And to that note, there was some guys reached out from a program in Africa, and they're like, hey, with these nets, we never have nets, and the climate here eats these nets up. Like, could you provide some? And I was able to get a donation, and we sent them 100 nets. And so we'll probably continue doing that with a few other groups too.
Well, and it was so cool seeing it back in the day with the Stingers as well. I mean, Blaine Allen here says, great job, thank you, in the Herd chat. There was a massive community impact, especially because you're showing up with Stingers themed nets.
Yeah.
Like that was so cool to see that. Like your local team is showing up with their gear. Mm-hmm. It's a special net for you guys. You guys get to celebrate it. And yeah, I mean, when you're shooting the hoops, it's like, yeah, the Stingers replaced that. Yeah. The Edmonton Stingers did that. Why don't we go to a game soon? Done, right? Easy, very easy for marketing, but it's also giving back to the community. So, yeah, thrilled. Love that. Love
Yeah,
that.
and that I mentioned it before that if there's something that Edmontonians love is community, right? That's why I made the comment that if there's anything that says Edmonton, they will eat it up, and if they know that is something that affects the community in positive ways, they will eat it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really amazing to see that, and yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't go nationwide, worldwide if you're already sending.
Totally.
Yeah,
Well, I think with the community side, to your point, like that Edmontonians love, it's like what I was really proud of at the Stingers is like we were showing up, like we were putting our blood, sweat, and tears into doing that, putting up nets at whatever time of night, in the morning, on the weekends, like really doing that. And I think that was something that really resonated with people in the city, because they kind of know if you're faking it, and when you're just like, hey, here's the picture with me in a giant check, and we're all waving and everyone's happy, but it's like, they're out here grinding. They're out here grinding because they actually want to do this, and they said they would, and they kind of held their word to get up, hundreds of nets around the city.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's not just a photo op, right? You kind of actually have to do something. And I see you grinding all the time on X, fresh nets, something that I love following as well. So, yeah, make sure everybody go follow Reed Clarke. Get in on that adventure. And I believe you actually have a page separately for fresh nets, right?
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, we've got a fresh nets account on X and in LinkedIn and Instagram, of course.
Nice. Everybody, you got to go get that follow in. But speaking of Edmonton, I know earlier, right? People eat the word Edmonton. Edmontonians eat the word Edmonton. So let's talk about Sport Edmonton, man. How did that happen? What exactly does Sport Edmonton do?
Yeah, good questions. How it happened. So Sport Edmonton is the evolution from the Edmonton Sport Council. The Edmonton Sport Council has been around for, I don't know, like 25 years or something, a long time. And it's not for profit. It's funded majority by the city. And really, like, the mandate from them from the beginning was really to advocate and emphasize sports in the city. That's great. And I got asked to join the board back in the summer, kind of like mid Stinger season. So I was pretty busy. I helped out where I could. I probably wasn't the most detailed, thorough board member in the world, but I was there. And then, kind of when I left the Stingers, I was working on my next opportunity. I met with some of the board, and they said, hey, we're looking to maybe change the direction here. We think there's an opportunity for this to be something bigger than what it is. What are your thoughts on maybe coming on board and leading that? And thought about it for a while, and I said, man, that could be pretty cool, because you see these sports organizations in other cities and provinces, and they're a big deal. They've got a lot of people, they got a big budget, they got a lot of clout, they're making a difference. And I think the Edmonton one has an opportunity to do that. So I said, okay, let's do this, but let's kind of blow it up. And then change the name, because Edmonton Sport Council, even though the work was great, it just seems like a corporate weird name to me. I kind of hate it, because it sounds like very much like city council has to vote on things, and I don't know, maybe nothing gets done. And it's a little bit slower than things.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this? So I'm like there's all these other ones. There's Sport Calgary, there's Sport BC, there's Spokane Sports, there's Sport Ottawa. It's very obvious what that does, right? So I'm like, let's rebrand it to Sport Edmonton. And I think, instead of just kind of advocating and educating for sports organizations, let's look at what other opportunities there are. And we had a strategic planning session to that. We realized nobody was really helping grassroots community events. You want to run a 5K fun run, you want to run a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, you want to run a soccer tournament in your neighborhood, and maybe you don't know how to get a grant, or even how to approach a city, or even how to do that. We want to be the organization that helps you get that off the ground, and supports it from a marketing standpoint, maybe a funding standpoint as well. So we kind of thought there's a real big need for that community side of sports, real grassroots level. So let's add that on to what we can do as an organization. And then the other part was working with the city and Explore Edmonton, who are partners of ours. They're good about, and Edmonton loves bringing these huge events to town. They buy tickets, people show up, they stay at hotels, they go to restaurants, volunteers are crazy. But you have these events, and then there's nothing left behind. It's they're here and they're gone. And that's not really a fault of anybody, just nobody was focusing on what's the legacy piece left behind from these things, right? So we kind of got identified, well, maybe Sport Edmonton can be that kind of conduit. When we're talking to an organization that wants to come here, there's some funding that's set aside to redo a basketball court, to redo a hockey rink, to implement a new program that goes for kids getting into that sport, like whatever that is, infrastructure or program, to do that. So that's those are kind of the two new things that we're leaning on. So we're still going to advocate for sports groups. We're still going to educate sports groups, but we're really going to be now in charge of making sure there's a legacy left behind from these sporting events, and then making sure these like people get help, honestly, with really like grassroots sporting events that happen in the city. So that's kind of where we're getting to, and we've already started doing some of those things in the short amount of time that we've been up and running as the new Sport Edmonton.
And that legacy piece, that's I think one of the most important things, because you are correct. Like, take a look at, Red Bull Crashed Ice. I think we've had 2 events.
Yeah.
But what's actually lasting out of that? There's there's no legacy piece there. It's an event comes in, they set up, they tear down. Like you said, right? People eat their food, they buy the merchandise, they spend the money, and then they move along. So
well, and even beyond that, right? I mean, you touched on this point in terms of the grassroots, right? When you have events that just come in and out, you're not really making a last impression that will go to the next generation.
Yeah.
And we've talked plenty before about what is missing, say, with the Edmonton Elks and football programs, and how the grassroots, level can increase and more visibility. How can we
market
solve
it better?
that,
Yes,
right?
like
What would you say? What are your thoughts on that? Like, how would you solve the lack of interest in certain sports at the grassroots level? Now that you're really getting involved with something like that, what would be your thoughts?
Yeah, I one thing I'll finish on the legacy piece is, like, if there was things being done before, nobody told that story. Nobody knows what it is, right? Like, let's say the Heritage Classic, like, did something happen before? Is there a whole new, like, hockey program that gets kids into it? Who knows? Like, I don't know, right? And that's a problem. So if it is happening, we're not telling the public and educating them on how it is, if it even is at all, right? But I guess the question is, like, getting kids into sports, like, or into specific sports.
Like what's missing at the grassroots? Like how like what's the number one way it can improve, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it a marketing issue?
No, it's it's access. Like, it's just getting right now. I mean, I see with my kids, I'm sure you guys see your kids, like, why does everything have to get right away to like 5 times a week? Like, can a kid just play hockey or football or basketball or soccer and not take over their schedule and my schedule? Like, there needs to be a point where, like, kids can just get in and access, and they can go to their community league and just play soccer or just play basketball or whatever sport it is, right? I'm only bringing up those 2 because they're obviously popular and growing in numbers in the city a lot. But, like, it's removing those kind of barriers. And I think the time is the big one. Obviously, money is a big one as well. But, like, there's a lot of families and parents, and good for them that they have the ability to drive their kids around from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock for practices 4 or 5 times a week, like whether it's gymnastics, swimming, hockey, who knows? But, like, a lot of other kids, like, don't have that chance because their parents are still working. They got a couple jobs, or it's too far for them to get to, right? So it's about, you got to really look at it. Like, you can't just throw money at a program and that's fine. You got to look at it from the start. And I think a group like Free Play, kind of started that. It's like, we pick up the kids in areas. We feed them. We take them to their practice or tryouts or games, and then we bring them back and do all of that. Like, facilitate the whole thing, right? And that's what it needs to be. But I think having that, like, it also has to be, if it's not even that organized or structured, like, you should be able to. I mean, we've got fields and parks and courts all over the city,
Everywhere. Yeah.
Well, like public swimming. You have a public swimming hour at whatever, pool.
Yeah.
Why not have public basketball, public football time, public baseball, that you just open up a space for an hour or 2 and allow kids to come in and play? That's
have somebody who knows how to kind of teach them, at least give them the basics on that, facilitate it a bit, and that's it, man. And make it really, really easy for them to get to, right? I think that's huge, and that's what we probably got to lean into a lot. I mean, I'll say there's like 100 outdoor community league rinks in the city that are like kept operational from volunteers and everything. Like instead of trying to get kids to find ice time at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, like there's how many days in the year that kids could just walk over there and learn how to skate, learn how to play, like the basics of that I think we can get into, right? So I don't know, there's a lot, like that's not an easy thing to do, but that's where it needs to get to, is just getting kids active and starting sports and there. And then after that, if they show big interest and they want to go on, man, there's tons of programs that take kids to the next level and build up there and get them to that kind of elite level. Like we don't need to touch that. And our organization is not trying to touch that at all. Let's just actually get kids being active into sports and making that a part of their life, right?
Yeah, and we even have, you know, those issues when it comes to our boys. You know, are we going to commit the 4 to 5 days a week?
Mm-hmm.
And hey, we will if they want it that bad. But what if, you know, I'll speak from experience. I was one of those kids that wanted to do a different sport every month. You know, Taekwondo, put that down real quick. I did soccer for 2 years. I did hockey for 2 years. I was an every 2 years kind of guy. I switched it up, right?
Right.
That's because I usually wasn't really truly enjoying what I was doing anyways, right? It was my parents wanted me to do a sport. You got to get them to want to do it. It's, you know, there's...
Well, and there's also other limitations as well. For example, our 6-year-old, he loves football. You can't really find football for 6-year-olds right now, right? So you have to wait until you're 8. And so we either have to wait until we're both available so that we can go to the field and play football with him, or wait for one of those, you know, 1 day
Golden Bears. Golden Bears does a program, I guess.
Exactly. But, you know, one of those things that happen just in the summer for either a day, maybe it's a day camp, maybe it's a couple of day camps, maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks, and that's all you get, right? He would love to just meet up with other kids that have the same interests, that maybe learn a little bit more and just play.
Yeah.
So, agree. That's...
No.
Well, we'll get it. We'll get there.
Eventually.
We'll get there. And that point on football, like obviously flag football, the growth is getting big and it's only going to get bigger with the Olympics here. But like that's a perfect thing for boys and girls, young ages, whatever, to get into. And I know there's a bit of a push from the Elks on that. I think the NFL is probably pushing that even more. But I look at that as it's the 3x3 for basketball is flag football for football. And that should be like school programs should be developed, should be really pushed pretty hard. And I hope we can actually work with a couple organizations to kind of lead that and maybe make that a legacy piece left behind from, you know, the World Football Championships is happening this year, and maybe a flag football piece that goes into schools and teaches kids, both boys and girls, how to play can be something that's built on.
No, that would be amazing. And even going back to your point about, you know, the NFL has their the flag football, you know, their showdown, and they do it in the CFL stadiums. So it's like, why isn't the CFL maybe trying to push that a little bit more? Yeah, that's what you'd hope, right? With Canadian rules and everything else. I know the NFL, when they come up, I think they do it. They may do it in partnership. Sometimes they don't, with the CFL. So, you know, it's you wish that the CFL did a little bit better. I will gladly harp on the CFL. I think, you know, already their marketing is really bad, but yeah, there's a million complaints I'm sure I could go on about, but one of them is they don't do the grassroots moves enough. It's they don't push for that type of engagement. Even with the WHL, the WHL markets kids nonstop. The Stingers, they're known to be a very family-friendly activity. So anyways, I could go on for days, but moving right along, throwing it back. We know you like a good throwback. We know you make them. You happen to own the original Edmonton Trappers logo rights. I know you've talked quite a bit about it lately, but you're working with our friends over at EST. Well, you have already. You've released this beautiful Trappers jersey with City of Champs apparel, which is the merger product of Ross Flats and City of Champs. So how did this all come to fruition? And I guess what's the backstory on the Trappers logo? I think that's what we want to know the most.
Yeah, I mean, the backstory is when I was doing my my MBA, I was doing that kind of while working, and there was a project that I took. I think it was like an entrepreneurial class, and the project was like find a business, write the business case, see if it actually works, and it can come alive. And the project I picked, because I've always loved sports and I've always loved kind of history, those two things merging together. So I saw in the States that there's like Ebbets Field flannels, there's Homage, there's all these companies that are making really cool retro logos and gear, right? I always love that, even like the vintage hockey stuff. I always love that. I was like, hey, that's going on. They're doing it all over the States, and it's like become a big thing. There's online stores and real stores, and people buy it, but no one's really doing that in Canada. And I was like, yeah, no one's really doing that in like Western Canada, and no one's really doing it in Edmonton. And me just being kind of like a homer for the city, I was like, well, let me just start doing a little bit of research and seeing what's out there. And from that, I started looking at like the 1914 Edmonton Baseball Club, the Grays, the Flyers, the Grads. I started going through all this history of Edmonton sports, and there's been like a champion, like when he used to call us the city champions, it actually goes back like 100 and something years. We've always had champions in Western Canada, Canadian, international, in sports from like rugby and football and basketball and baseball, and that was kind of crazy. So I was looking at that, and I said, hey, let's just start looking at like trademarks and seeing if this stuff has been trademarked, the name or the logo. And then I was just kind of digging on the Canadian Intellectual website, and I saw the Edmonton Trappers name when I was looking it up, and it was expunged. So expunge means, I didn't really know, but expunge means that somebody had the trademark and they gave it up and they haven't renewed it, right? And so that was obviously the old Edmonton Eskimos group had that. They were the last team before they sold it to Noel and Ryan, which I think we're still using some of the funds that Noel and Ryan paid for that to pay for the Elks operations, which is funny. But I saw that was expunged. I was like, well, what does that mean? And talked to some legal friends of mine. They said, well, like you can apply for it. So I applied for it. It was like $250. And then from there, you get kind of put into a queue, as I understand it. Anybody who had that trademark before actually has an option to get it back over like the next 8 months. So they all get like a letter, they all get noticed. So it would have been like the Edmonton Eskimos board would have went to them, maybe Peter Pocklington group, I don't know, a bunch of other people. And but if they don't do it, then you can actually get the trademark registered. So waited those months, and then and then they got the trademark registered. And then from there, I was like, okay, cool. Like I think, and in the meantime, I started the business anyways, Ross Flats Vintage Apparel, and it was just based on old school Edmonton logos. And I went like really deep on like 1909 Grays baseball team who won the Western Canadian Championship. But I was like waiting for this Trappers thing to come through if it could happen. And then when it did, I was like, all right, let's go. Like I loved going to Trappers games. I went to Ducey Park. I'd go with my dad and get a Ducey dog and hang out. And then when they moved into Telus Field, now Remax, I mean, I lived across the street. I used to go, I had a condo there when it was like Cracker Cats. I'd go watch the games by myself with like a paper and a beer and just hang out. And it was only me and Crusher, the mascot, and 50 other people, but it was still a great time. So it's always been close to my heart, baseball and that team. So when I got the Trappers thing greenlit, I just said, let's start making logos, or let's start making gear with the different logos, right? So did the research, and I was like, okay, well, they've won like 4 PCL championships. Let's kind of do a different brand, based on each one of those kind of designs, and try to keep it as authentic as possible to that. And yeah, man, I started doing it, and that was, I don't know, like 5 years ago. And people liked it. It was always kind of something I did, a little bit of a side business, but it was great. You get orders every day and come up with new ideas. And then from there, I look at different teams and find the Edmonton Flyers and the Edmonton Grads basketball team, which is crazy history. Should have got into the Hall of Fame this year, didn't, but that's another story. Yeah, man. And then I was doing that, but to be honest, the quality of my stuff was kind of like, it was okay, but it could have been stepped up, right? So when my buddy Sean Hill approached me, who runs City of Champs apparel, he's like, Reed, I could help you make like really nice stuff, better quality shirts. You've never done jerseys before, because I could never find a right manufacturer to do it. He's like, I got a guy who makes jerseys for like, I think it was some MLB teams, some teams in Japan. I'm going to connect with him. Let's kind of do a merger and see if we can really take this to the next level. So that took a few months, and then we put that all together at the end of March, and then we're kind of dropping lines. We dropped like our Trappers 90 line, which is kind of based on like the 96, 97 black and teal back-to-back PCL championships, and got the jerseys, and they've been hot sellers, and they're going quick. And we put Jason Giambi's name on the back and Tim Salmon on another one, and then we'll look to kind of do a few more eras of Trapper stuff, and then bring back some other cool vintage logos like that E hat, which is the Edmonton Eskimos baseball team in 1914. We'll be looking to bring that back too, and kind of some different apparel options. So that's kind of the story, but it's just been a passion project that I love doing.
Well, and now it's actually taking off. I mean, Tom Gazzola in the Trappers gear. I mean, you couldn't have did better. I mean, he is pretty much a model anyways, but man,
it's a beautiful jersey, and now it just takes it the extra level.
The black and white
with
shots,
Gazzola's face on.
So funny. Like, I mean, it's hilarious, but I mean, those jerseys sell themselves. Let's be real. I want one. I'm gonna be ordering one. That's for darn sure. But I mean, you guys even had a launch party for that. How was that launch party down at Remax? Remax?
Yeah, it was at Remax. So like when we were kind of thinking about, okay, let's launch it, and I was talking to Sean. He's like, oh, we'll put it online. I'm like, dude, we've got to have a party. You got to have a DJ. You got to have a photographer. You got to have. We had our own Trappers beer that Alley Cat did, which we might be looking to do in the future as a product people can buy. And then I'm like, there's only one place we can do it at. It's at the ballpark. Like, let's do it there. We did in the home plate lounge, and it was a vibe, man. It was a great party. People showed up. They rocked the gear. They had a good time. We even had hot dogs from our friends at Fuge, kind of giving out free sausages and everything. So it was, I mean, that's what it was about. Like, this is bringing good people from Edmonton together who love sports and love kind of vintage apparel. Remember the Trappers, and everyone did, man. They thought it was cool. And the stuff's like, the logo is great. It's the colors, like the black and the teal from the 90s, just hit right now. Everyone loves that, from like the San Jose Sharks and the Grizzlies and the Florida Marlins. So it's all good, man. It's all good. It's fun to do it, and I want to do more of them.
Kathy likes teal, so
yeah, teal and black, my thing for sure.
Teal and black, it's huge. Yeah, it's great.
So another great opportunity for throwback merchandise is the 2024 Edmonton Elks season, which is celebrating the 75th anniversary season this year. So, have you been there lately? And
season ticket holder.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he is. So, what's your thoughts on the current state of the brand, and what would you do for a throwback jersey?
A throwback jersey. I'm trying to look around because I've got one spot in my house where I get to put all my my memorabilia and stuff. It's all around here. Trying to think if I have one. I think I have one somewhere. I want to say it's from like the 50s, and I think it just has numbers on the front, not on the back. It's kind of like it's like a gold arms color, and then like a dark kind of forest green. But I love that jersey. I think it's great. I would go something way back on that, or maybe I might even, because I mean, the jerseys were the U of A Golden Bears jerseys, right? Like they lent them to them, and that's how they got their first jerseys, which is a crazy story in 1949. But I guess that's how it all went down. So maybe I would actually rock like University of Alberta jerseys, like maybe like from then, right? Like if you want to go real throwback, go from where it actually started, like, and maybe even have Alberta across the chest or whatever it said back then. I don't even know. But I would go way back, and kind of the current state on the team and what's going on. I mean, I think the on-field product obviously needs to be better, and there's a whole bunch of things you can change on that. But you probably don't want my opinion on that. You got more qualified people to give you answers on that side of things.
We love fan opinions. We love.
I mean, hey, you're an Elks fan, man. You're an Elks fan.
No, but I mean, like the thing that I can kind of talk to is, from going to games and seeing, it's like, there's a connection missing there. There's a vibe missing there. They've got to tap into that. And in my opinion, like, that has nothing to do with the on-field product in some ways. Like, you should be able to go and have a great time with your buddies, with your kids, whatever, regardless of what has to happen on the field. And as you're running this as a business and entertainment option, those things got to be dialed in, and those tickets got to be sold. And I like their theme nights they released. They kind of most of them make sense, except for maybe the Dino Night one. I don't really understand that, but maybe kids just love dinosaurs and they'll all go.
They're doing
that was the whole point, though, that everybody loves dinosaurs. So.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's great, but like there's something kind of missing there, and I think the part that kind of frustrates me, and I've said this to people in the organization, is like there's a lot of kind of like apologizing, feeling down on themselves about how things have gone, and obviously attendance not good, team's been not great, all these kind of things. There's been issues with the name change, all that stuff, but like you're still the Edmonton Football Club, man. Like, you still have the most storied history in the league. You know, you play in an awesome Giants stadium that used to be full. You know, you've got such a rich history. I mean, I think there's probably more diehard, you know, Elks, Eskimos fans here than even Oilers if you really get down to the roots of it. And I want the organization, the people there, to be kind of proud of, you know, the history and where they've come from and what they are now, and not kind of be like, well, we messed up and we hope you guys forgive us and come back. It's like, stop with that kind of attitude. That part drives me crazy. Like, it's a proud organization, and I think you need to acknowledge that, right?
Just own it. And
Yeah.
I really like just own it.
Own it.
I really think that they're starting to figure that out, and that's why they're bringing a lot of historical nights and, you know, going through the ages, through the decades here, and bringing the history and trying to put a lot more emphasis on, you know, the kind of team that they want to be. So I am very, very excited to see what they put up this year.
Now, speaking of owning it, Elks ownership, do you think what's your opinion on that? Is it a good idea? And what would be your ideal ownership group?
Yeah, I think an ownership group has to be local, right? I mean, if you're going to go from a community-owned team to a privately owned franchise, right? I think it's got to be a local person, man, woman, group, whatever it is. But they got to have those ties. So I would say that, number one. I mean, the community-owned option, like, I mean, you've got the Elks do it, Saskatchewan does it, Winnipeg does it, obviously Green Bay does it very successfully in the NFL. And they all kind of have different models of how they do it. I always thought it's a great idea. I think they should lean into it more. I think they should explain what that means. But I don't think having 100 and something shareholders who pay kind of a nominal fee is very community owned, right? And not knowing who they are. Like, to me, if you're gonna make it a community owned team, like, open it up to everybody from every corner of the city and attract different groups that really speak to what Edmonton is. And, you know, when we tried to do that with the Stingers and we did that, it was like the Edmonton I know, grew up in, and I love now, has so many different diversity in groups, and they all love sports and they want to come together and they want to have a good time. And I would really tap into all those different communities, right? So, I mean, saying that, I think a community site, like, I think it could work, man. I really do. And I think you could actually raise a lot of funds that you need to keep the team operational. But, you know, if it's past that point and you got to get somebody with some cash in that can, you know, stop the bleeding, turn this around, make it back into a profitable organization, then I think you got to do that, right? And I think they, you know, knowing from some of the people I've talked to on the board, like, I think like everybody wanted to keep this community-owned team, and maybe they still want to keep it that. I don't know, but, you know, if it's past that point, you got to look at private ownership, and you got to do what you got to do to make this still work, right?
Yeah, and local, I think, is what everybody says. The one consensus, they want to see local. They don't want to see somebody just come in with a cash injection and to not actually care, right? It's you see a lot of those ownership groups out there.
Yes.
In this instance, there needs to be that further connection. Like, Victor was from Edmonton, so people immediately resonated with Victor Cui, right? So, you know, even with yourself, you're from Edmonton, so you know, in your role even right now at Sport Edmonton, it allows you to connect that much quicker and that much stronger.
I mean, and this is an authentic city, right? Like they see through bullshit, and if you're not really from here, you're trying to do it to make a quick buck or have other kind of ulterior motives, they'll pick up on that pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, do you have to be from here? I guess you don't, but you better embrace the city and the people and kind of be about it, man. Like, you know, like you got to be out there everywhere, shaking hands, kissing babies, supporting minor football, going to those events. Like, I mean, if you're a president CEO, like you should be at the Golden Bears football games, as many as you can. You should be at JP Bowl seeing Rebels football games, in my opinion. You should be in Sherwood Park at Bet Facey games. And you should be at Stingers games, and you should be at Oilers games, and you should be doing all those kind of things, and then helping out with obviously all these great charities and stuff, right? Like that's how I think you got to do it, and that's what people will see and be like, hey, this guy, this gal, this group is all about this. They really want to make this work.
Well, and much like we've talked before, right? It's and just like what you did with Sport Edmonton. On the business side of things, this is going to be another rebuild. They're going to come in and they're going to blow some things up, but like you said, it's going to be getting back to the communities. Now, the Edmonton Elks, in one hand, sure, they should not be beating themselves up, but in the other hand, they have to go out and reconnect and reestablish. And it's going to be a lot more than putting, let's say, a sponsorship logo at Randy Rosen Rink.
Yeah.
Right? Saying proud sponsor. Like, hey, that's cool, that's great, but get some appearances out there. Get some actual face time in and get that real, not just a photo op. Not just going out and spending 5 minutes and leaving. So, yeah, man, that's why we're very, very thankful that not only that you joined the show today, but that you're in the role that you are and that you're getting the grassroots movement moving a little bit faster now. So, yeah, man, you're always an awesome chat. Really appreciate this, Reed. Where can we find you? Any major projects coming up? Anything you got juicy details on?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at Reed Clarke at some kind of aspect of that on handles on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Things we're working on, with Sport Edmonton and the legacy part that we talked on. We're actually working with the WNBA right now and the City of Edmonton, Explore Edmonton, for their exhibition game that's coming. We're going to redo an outdoor court, WNBA logos, backboards, refresh the whole thing. And we're hoping to get that done in time the day before the game and do a bit of an announcement there, which I think is a really cool piece. And it really ties into a whole bunch of stuff that we're trying to do. So hopefully that's one of a few courts we can do. Hopefully we can do some outdoor rinks too. And then kind of touches more on your guys. I think there's a possibility for a flag football program that we can help lead and get that going. So that's all on like the Sport Edmonton side. There's some really cool legacy pieces coming up. And then, on City of Champs, like we got some new drops coming, and I think we're going to do like an 80s Trapper drop. It's going to be like, I saw the jerseys. It's going to be sick. It's going to be awesome. That, and then kind of those new E caps and new E versions, that'll be dropping in the next month or so. So awesome.
That'll be exciting. It's not like you need any more hats or jerseys. We all know how that's going to go.
Support local.
Exactly.
Everybody go hit them up. City of Champs Apparel Company, and then Sport Edmonton.
Got it.
Reed Clarke, man, can't thank you enough for joining the show. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Can't thank you guys enough. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Got me. Awesome. We'll chat soon, man.
Yeah. See you in Section X.
See you out there, brother. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Take it easy. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Reed Clarke, Sport Edmonton, and former Stinger CEO, and currently City of Champs Apparel. Guy's great. He is a great business mind. He's definitely got the charisma and everything else for it. So always good. City of Champs Apparel, nonstop selling those jerseys like hotcakes.
Yeah,
like hotcakes. So
I love them. They're really, really nice.
They're Tim Enger, welcome back to the show. We know you're a very busy guy at this time of year, already with your duties at Football Alberta, especially right now, though, because of the IFAF U20 World Juniors coming up here in Edmonton, the Football World Juniors. Tim, thanks again, but what is the IFAF and what's the history of the event that's coming to Edmonton?
Well, it's pretty young still comparatively. When you think about international competitions, tackle football certainly doesn't come to mind. American football in particular. IFAF is short for International Federation of American Football. It was founded in the late 1990s, and starting in the early 2000s, they started to do what an international organization is supposed to do, which is run competitions between nations. And, you'd be actually surprised. IFAF itself has over 75 member nations. And, they all play some semblance of tackle football. There's some powerhouses, as you can imagine, but there's some surprising countries out there that are quite strong as well. So this World Junior idea has been going on since 2002. That basically is your kind of first year university players, I think, would be the best description of the athletes they're getting. And so you always get the big two from North America, Canada and Mexico in there, and then there's qualifying events, believe it or not, all over the world. And so we've got coming into this event, we've got the European champion, which is Austria. You've got the Central American champion, which is Panama. You've got South American champion, which is Brazil. Oceania is represented by Australia, and then the Asian champion is Japan. And this event here it's the first time since I think 2012 it was in Austin, Texas. But it normally travels around the world, and it's been in some pretty strange places. It was in Kuwait once. It was in China. I guess the Emir and the Communist Party wanted to see something they hadn't seen before, so they hosted it there, and but we really think this is going to be the catalyst of really bringing this home, because the last event was in 2018, which is in Mexico City. Was quite well attended for the final. Didn't hurt that Mexico was in the final, so they had about 35,000 people at that game. But Canada, believe it or not, has won this thing 3 times. So and is the defending champion. So we're quite excited about them doing what they do very well on the home turf.
That's super exciting, especially that we're the defending champions. So we definitely have something to prove.
Yeah.
So what is your role in the upcoming event, and how does Football Alberta tie in?
Oh Lord, what don't I do?
I feel you.
That's an easier question to ask. No, the event was awarded to Canada in 2018, and we were sitting around at this. They made the announcement at a Football Canada planning meeting in Ottawa, and immediately my hand went up. I don't know whether this was my wisest move, but there is no other place in Canada that you want to run international events than Edmonton. Edmonton's got the best track record of any city in Canada of not only hosting them well, but getting behind them as well. You look at the examples of the Commonwealth Games, the World Universiade Games from the last century, but also, in 2001, I believe it was, 40,000 people were in Commonwealth for Christine Sinclair's coming out as a soccer player, as the U17 Girls World Championship. Also 2001, they had 60,000 people a night watching track and field at Commonwealth Stadium for the World Track and Field Championship. So I can go on and on, but I mean, that was kind of our logic to then, you look at the traditions all in the Edmonton area, you look at Edmonton's ability to host international events, this had to be the place. So Football Alberta put together the bid. We beat out Regina and Laval for the right to be the Canadian host for the event, and we've been working on it ever since.
Now, was Clarke Stadium being right beside Commonwealth, was that a bit of a factor?
Yeah, it's because the things that tie all this together are we're kind of trying to be environmentally conscious. We're trying to use the LRT as the main point of transportation for the teams. We've got them, at the Weston and the Chateau Lacombe, who have been outstanding, by the way, in terms of really adapting to what we need to, especially in the food category. They know they got to feed these guys a lot of food, but But yeah, we want to move up and down the LRT, and we've got 8 nations. So if you try to squeeze across 8 practices a day in between games, you need 2 venues, and what better setup than Clarke and Commonwealth side by side. It also gives us great flexibility with the games because we don't have to try and fight to have 4 games in one location on one day, but we can spread the games out, give teams adequate warm-up time, and use both Clarke and Commonwealth to the best advantage we can.
Definitely. Football will be played on 3 days, with all of the 8 teams playing on each day. So what does that format look like down to the championship game?
Well, it's basically an 8-team draw. You've got you win your first game, you go on the A side. When you lose your first game, you go on the B side. You'll always get kind of a semifinal game on the next round, and then the final games will be on the last game. So everybody will be playing for something. Clarke Stadium will have the 7th and 8th place game, and then the 5th and 6th place game, and then at Commonwealth will have the bronze and the gold game. So again, formats not necessarily associated with football that you've seen in the past, but we need to. You're going to come here just for one game, so we need to give them a full slate of three competitions, and then see how it goes. I mean, there's some real interesting stories out there with the who knows what the Central and South American teams are going to be like. I know football's popular down there. Brazil in particular, they're getting an NFL game this year. They've really they've upped their game. We've watched some of their game film, and these guys aren't bad. This is going to be interesting to see how they do. Japan always puts on a good show, so it's going to be interesting to see who earns the right to play their final games in Commonwealth after the first round.
Totally, and like you say, with Clarke and Commonwealth being there and games happening simultaneously, like you could really get a feel of every single team if you really want, and go check them all out.
We do have tournament passes. If you're a real junkie and you've got 12 hours on your hands, then come on out and you can. Oh, seriously, we've had people buy tournament passes. They want to watch them all, and why not? Because it's when in your lifetime did you ever think you'd get to watch a football team from Brazil play?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and against Team Canada at that, right? Like, there's so many storylines.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Canada, last year saw Edmonton host the 2023 Football Canada Cup, which the finals were never played at Commonwealth due to heavy smoke, nothing that you guys could control. How will last year's national event help with the hosting of this year's World Juniors?
Well, we learned a lot. We've got a great bunch of volunteers that were with us last year, and the vast majority of them plugged in again. So it's basically the same tournament. The only real difference is just one extra day of practices between games. So our hosts know what to do. Our game ops team knows what to do. That's the easy part. Now, the events that you spoke to, we had a couple situations happen during the Football Canada Cup that totally blindsided us. One was we had an incident on the LRT when one of our teams was threatened by someone who wasn't in the right mind at the time. So we had to switch to busing for the remainder of the week. We are going back to the LRT, but we've had great meetings with the city, the LRT police, the Edmonton Police Service. We've got the schedules all set. We feel very confident that issue has been addressed, and the teams will be very safe in their transportations. And the other thing is the smoke. This is our world now. We have to recognize it. We've been fortunate so far, as I knock on wood or any wood I can find, that the weather's been cooperative so far in terms of a wetter spring than normal, cooler spring than normal. But we're still just into June. That could change in a hurry, and those forest fires are always at the waiting. But we do have backup programs. We've got great. Again, the city has been more than cooperative in terms of recognizing what we need to do. The field house at Commonwealth is available to us if we have to put teams inside for practice day, and then if we have to, we will keep our schedule by playing our games indoors at the Scottish Soccer Dome on the south side of the city. Now, it won't be pretty, and we won't be able to get fans in there, but we will be webcasting the game, and we will get the event will go as scheduled one way or the other. So we learned our lessons, and I think we're prepared.
Well, that's really good to hear, that Edmonton has been more than accommodating and looking at different ways that they can make everything work regardless of what happens. It is a big event. We have countries coming to Canada, from outside of our country. So it's a big thing. And really, Edmonton is a fantastic sports place. And we all know that. So how special is it to host an international event here in Edmonton?
Well, for me in particular, I mean, I think I've watched it since I was a kid. My parents volunteered at the Commonwealth Games in 1978. They did it again in 1983 with the World Universiades. Just to watch the way Edmonton goes around and gets a hold of international events. Because we talk about whether people are football fans or not, and they're going to come to this thing, but we're not necessarily selling football. We're selling Canada. Come cheer on your country, and Edmonton does that very well. So that's kind of the magic we're hoping that takes off. Now, we've got a bit of our I won't even call it a cloud over our head. It just is what it is. We are absolutely thrilled that the Oilers are in the Stanley Cup final. However, they're sucking up a lot of oxygen right now in terms of the attention and space, rightly so. But we're working around that as best as possible. And we're just like everybody else. We want to see them win. A sweep would be nice. Sweep would be nice for them, and then on their merry way. But it shows you this. Just look at the passion that Edmontonians are showing for that. It can happen. It can happen for us, to us, and again, I can't see this happening in any other city in the nation.
No, and that is a very interesting fact. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers, I think that everybody's tuned in from all across Canada, right? So, like you said, it goes to show how passionate we are here in the city of Edmonton. Now, getting back to that support piece you were just talking about, the city of Edmonton and other partners, such as the Elks, have been supportive from what we understand, and based on what you've said here. What are the other ways you're seeing support right now? Is the community being really responsive? Are you guys seeing other partners step up?
Yeah, well, one partner that's been great for us too is the province of Alberta. They've stepped up with their major cultural and sports event grant. That's solved a lot of our problems. We've got we don't have what you would call a title sponsor or a big hitter or something like that, but we've got a lot of little guys, and what they've done is they're buying tickets. They're buying tickets so we can give it to kids what is it? Kids up close or something along those lines. Forgive me, I don't know the exact lines, but yeah, I mean, so we're able to move the tickets to the groups that normally wouldn't be able to afford them. And then we're also able to give huge discounts to the people that are members of Football Alberta to do that. So we were greatly appreciative to that. And then we've got a lot of value in kind people that, will like, for example, we're bringing the NFL experience in for the latter part of the week. So for the last 3 days, we'll have the NFL experience set up in the parking lot B outside Commonwealth Stadium. People can come and experience that. And that's all NFL Canada. They're bringing it all in there. However, we need fencing around that. So we found a fencing company that's willing to help us out in that regard. So these are the things we're cobbling together that, and it's funny, we don't hear a lot of no's, like we'll hear somebody doesn't want to give you cash. That's fine. But what else can they do? And it's been, that's been very, very, very nice as we move along.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I mean, just to touch on that point that you were talking about, this event from the NFL that they're providing, we hear that there are some big events planned throughout the week for the IFAF World Juniors. Sorry, I always screw that up. Is there anything that you can share at this time? Anything else?
Well, the most exciting thing, and we've just confirmed this, is that part of the NFL experience, and one of the things that we're doing is we want to marry together football. So we've, the Elks have been just fantastic in terms of their support. They've put us in a few directions. They've been very understanding of what we have to do with Commonwealth Stadium. We have to basically convert it to a NFL field. Because again, there's 75 members of IFAF, but only one plays Canadian rules. So you imagine we have to, we got to make a few adaptations there. But they've been very supportive, and we were over at the stadium today. Their guys have been great. We're going to work some stuff with them and with the Australians and the Americans who were coming in early for their training camps. But we actually tried to focus all of our stuff at the end of the week of the actual competition because we actually anticipated the Oilers going to the Stanley Cup, believe it or not. We figured we weren't going to fight with them at the beginning of the week and try and do something during game 6 or 7. That just wasn't going to fly. So after our semifinals, it'll be basically a football festival down at Commonwealth Stadium. Again, we'll have the NFL experience. The highlight of that will be the presence of the Lombardi Trophy. That was a real hard get, but then again, the NFL Canada people are working with us. On the field, while we're doing that, we're having a try-it football event for new Canadians, Indigenous, and women's groups to try flag football. That gets the support of the Elks. So you see, we're all one big happy as much as we can put together. Bringing all the best of football here. We're in negotiations right now with the CFL to have the Grey Cup present for our kickoff banquet when all the teams come in. So just stuff like that. But then, frankly, you just look at the city. We met with them again the other day, and they listed off all the other things that are going on in the city during the time these teams are here. They're turning Rice Howard Way into an entertainment district for 2 of the nights. Going on at the Oilers fan zone for free. There's a soapbox derby. I'm not trying to promote other events, but it just we thought about it. How are we going to entertain these teams when they're here? And we're like, just sit back and relax. It's been taken care of.
The city will take care of it.
Yeah.
No, well, and I mean, you're right. We're called the Festival City here in Edmonton. We always have something going on, but like you said, you're going to have Elks, Oilers, let alone Riverhawks, Stingers, and then Soapbox Derby, and so many events. It's great to see this one added onto it and being able to kind of mesh in with it. Right now, there's going to be people that aren't here. Will the World Juniors be broadcast anywhere?
Yeah, well, there will be a webcast, and that will be that's all handled by IFAF and Football Canada, so that's a bit above my pay grade, but they were racing around there today at Commonwealth Stadium, hooking up this and hooking up that. It's amazing when these tech wizards that are responsible for setting up the webcast, they come and they can't wait to tell you all about what they're doing, and just, if I don't just do what you do, it's all good. But the final, this isn't 100% confirmed because they've got to move a few things around, but the final it'll be broadcast on TSN. At the very least, it'll be tape delayed because it goes head to head with a regularly scheduled game. So we're excited about that aspect of it, and we're hoping that Canada will be in that game and make it worth their while for eyeballs to get on the TV sets.
Definitely, because it doesn't hurt, right, to have more Canadians tuning in to football events, and especially in Edmonton. And what a nice prelude to the Olympics coming up in a few years,
well,
right?
Exactly.
It's a very, very nice kind of way to start bringing awareness to the sport a little bit more, for sure. But where can folks find tickets and any other information on the IFAF World Juniors?
We'll just go on our website, which is World Junior Football Championships. I believe the junior is abbreviated to JR. And it'll tell you all about the event, all about the teams, and then it'll have your ability to click on purchasing tickets through Ticketmaster. We've really taken the time because, again, we've got all these kind of minor sponsors that are helping us out to the point where we really wanted to make the ticket pricing family friendly. So for $19, $19.95, you can get into any game of your choice. If you want to buy what we call our Canada Pass, which will get you into all 3 of Canada games, that's $49.95, and then a tournament pass itself for all 12 games is $99.95. So pretty good value, we think, and we're just starting to see the tickets take off now. Edmonton does support international events, but it's always classically a late buying ticket group. So we know that the Oilers have everybody hypnotized right now, rightly so. And then, but the more we get the word out there, there isn't a person I talk to out there that doesn't think this is cool. Just to have football really between nations. When has that happened before?
Totally. So, one last question, just because I'm wondering about it. Do you know if you're expecting a lot of the families or a lot of other people other than the players from other countries coming to Edmonton for this?
I just was dealing with the hotels. What we did with we've got certain teams in certain hotels, and then we sent the hotels sent them a group rate if they wanted to for families to come and stuff like that. And I was told today that the hotels are sold out. Now, a bit of that has to do with the fact that clearly the Oilers are using up a few rooms. But they say they've been quite pleased with the uptake. So it'll be interesting to see, like, coming from Japan's a long way, and coming from Brazil's a long way, Austria too. But what we found with the Football Canada Cups we've run is you can always bank on any athlete who's participating in this thing is going to be bringing at least 2 people with them. So the hotels are jam packed. It'll be a real raucous affair, and we'll hopefully. For our standpoint, whoever wins the other games, I don't care. But I need Canada to win some games here so we can really generate some good vibes in the city and really bring it home in a great way.
Well, exactly. And I mean, we all know what the hype is around Canadian hockey and Edmonton hockey and everything, right? But Canada football, we got to see the passion build up a little bit for that. And this only really benefits the city of Edmonton and the Edmonton Elks, and then of course our provincial programs such as Football Alberta as well. So this is a very, very exciting event coming up June 20th to 30th. Tim, we will let you carry on because we know that you're an extremely busy guy, but man, we can't thank you enough for your time today. We will be seeing you in a couple weeks at the 2024 IFAF U20 Football World Cup. Thanks again for joining us, Tim.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the time.
Okay, see you soon. Cheers. So that was Tim Enger of Football Alberta and the 2024 IFAF U20 Football World Cup. Guys, it's a Football World Juniors.
Yeah, I mean,
how much more exciting does it get than that, right? Like, we know how this city gets about hockey, like we said, and World Juniors anything is usually a fun competition.
Like, look how exciting this looks.
Catherine on the poster. And that will conclude another best of episode from the Elks Call Season 2. If you enjoy what you see and like what you hear, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and favorite button. We thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Don't forget to head over to royalretros.com and use code Shotgun Sports, all caps, no spaces, to save 10% off on throwback CFL jerseys and official CFL PA merchandise. And stay tuned to Shotgun Sports Network for another episode of the Elks Call in the near future. Until then, my name is Scout, aka the rep from Section X, with the Elks Herd, and we will see you all again soon. Cheers, everybody.